I am about to die, to be honest. It's rap for me. I might not see 2023. Let's be honest.
Someone's like, you look old. I'm like, fuck you.
Who said that to you?
My fucking little cousin.
Oh, you should have
Asshole.
kicked him in the fucking face.
Yeah, no, she did get kicked. How dare you?
Don't worry, I'll cut that out.
No, it's fine. She deserved the kick.
Sweet Christmas.
Shout out to my birds.
Hello, hello, hello. This is Che.
This is Cory.
And this is the Next Time On podcast, a podcast where two lifelong friends discuss all things amazing and all things fetid in popular culture. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, imagine if, instead of defrauding thousands of stupid tech bros with their crypto coin, Caroline Ellis and Sam Bankman-Fried defrauded tens of brilliant nerds with their nerd podcast instead. Is that fair, Cory?
I think that's very fair, Che.
Which one of us is Sam Bankman-Fried?
Obviously me. We have the same.
I'll take it.
Same.
Actually,
yeah,
do I want to be a snitch, like our girl Caroline?
Or like Tom, yeah, like Tom. You're like Tom Hanks. That's a good thing. No, I'm sorry.
In
I'm
what way am I
about,
like Tom Hanks?
I'm so sorry, guys. Like literally just getting started. Tim Allen.
Even worse. Somehow
Yeah.
even worse than Caroline Ellison. I'm Tim Allen.
Sorry.
Human
sorry,
garbage
but
can. Great.
My coffee has not kicked in yet. You know, honestly, I think whenever we do this in the morning, I realize I cannot be a shock jock, early morning radio DJ. I think that part of my potential life is no longer possible.
To be honest, was that in your dream?
When I was
dreamscape?
a kid, I kind of wanted to do it. I cannot lie to you, my friend.
I can't relate to that at all. It seems like such a miserable job just to be yelling at yourself for 6 hours at 3 a.m.
That sounds like my dream, honestly. Well, I do that anyway, and I don't get paid for it. So maybe
that's fair. Yeah, at least capitalize on what you're doing, right?
Honestly, I think me being an insomniac on a podcast would be very not entertaining to listen to.
Well, I don't think shock jockeys are like entertaining. They're just there. They're like, it's for like truckers who have nothing else to do. But we are not going to talk about shock jockeys today. We will be talking about the best TV of 2022. In the second of the third of 3 installments on our list week. By the time you're listening to this, the comic book one is already up for sure. That's our last episode. Go check that out. It's a good one. We gave you 20 plus great books to check out from last year. It's also possible, depending on when you're listening to this, our movie one, which will be dropping tomorrow, is also up if you're in the future. But let's get down to business to defeat the
Sounds
Huns. Good. Couple points of business, as usual. Don't forget, follow us at Next Time On Pod on all our social media platforms, and check us out at nexttimeon.net. That's where all of our past and future podcasts and all of our writing can be found. And last but not least, if you are watching the YouTube channel, which hopefully this video is on, peek behind the curtain. I've been trying to export the comic book one for like 12 hours. The audio's great, but the video's fucking my life up. But
well,
if you are on the
how
YouTube
else
channel,
can people see my wonderful background if you don't?
It's
do
true.
this?
At the moment, nobody can see it. At this exact moment, nobody can see it besides me. Hopefully, I get to figure out what the fuck's going on with Premiere Pro before it's too late. But if you are on the YouTube channel, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you're not on the YouTube channel, though, go check the link in the description. Drop us a subscribe. Give us a like. Really helps us out. All that good stuff. Even click the little bell thing. I don't know what it does, but people tell you to do that.
Well, the bell thing lets people know whenever we have a new episode coming out, so it's actually pretty good. So just lets you get the notification. It doesn't slip through the algorithm that is YouTube.
Yeah.
Because you know what YouTube front page likes to do is recommend none of the things I'm subscribed to.
Well, isn't
that's
like by design, right? To
keep
you trapped on the platform.
You're curious about Warhammer for about 3 minutes, and now I cannot stop getting plugged Warhammer videos. I don't care about Warhammer.
Like Warhammer, like the little
miniature game. Like, I don't care about the lore, man. I don't give a shit. It was like, what the hell is
video
this?
did you watch? You're like getting Warhammer recommendations.
I don't know, man. I watched one Warhammer video because I'm like, oh, Henry Cavill got this. Let me just give it a watch, and you know what?
Very weird. All
We're
right.
not going to talk about Henry Cavill in this show. Today.
Will he not come up at all? No.
No, I don't think so. I didn't watch The Witcher. Did you?
Well, he's not in The Witcher, so it wouldn't have mattered.
Well, 2 seasons. Well, apparently seasons 2 and 3 got worse, and I'm like, oh, because I thought the season 1 was mediocre, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I never finished the first season, so I don't have like a ton of opinions on it. It
was fine.
It's not for me.
Now that I know he left, I have no like motivation to go back and finish it.
Yeah. But you are right. Henry Cavill will not be coming up on this podcast. Instead, we're going to be talking about the worst TV shows of 2022 to kick off the podcast. And Cory and I we agreed for once. We never agree on anything, but we did
Especially
agree.
on television.
We have some overlap on our lists. But I think the worst thing, I should say, this is not the worst thing on TV by any stretch of the imagination. It is the worst thing that I watched every episode of. And hated for every second of it, and that is the Amazon Prime Chris Pratt, Taylor Kitsch, Constance Wu show, The Terminal List, which on top of being like just really really boring and poorly paced and bad, was also just like it was like the worst things I hate about America all in one TV show. It's
like I'm slowly realizing who Amazon's. I think that show was like, oh, I get what Amazon's demographic is now. I get like what one of the demographics that Amazon seems to really be gunning for.
Yeah, I mean,
and the Terminal List is everything that sucks about that. It sucks about that.
The Terminal List, Jack Ryan, and Reacher. I think those are all like differing degrees of the same sort of type of show, appealing to the same exact type of audience. This is by far the worst of those three.
It's bored suburban white dads. Yeah. That's who these are marketed towards.
Yeah.
And listen, I like a bored suburban white dad show sometimes, and Terminal List was the worst one. I've never struggled so much through an episode of television, and for some reason watched the second episode.
I mean, I watched every single episode of the first season of this show.
What the fuck is wrong with you, dude?
Listen, my list of 2022 shows is 65.
I have genuinely no idea how you're able to watch that much television. It's crazy. I don't.
There's a lot of time in the day. You just got to pack it in there. The biggest problem with this show is not Chris Pratt, who obviously we've all turned on, rightfully so. But I think has the world finally caught up to find out to learn that Constance Wu like can't act at all, is like a really terrible actor. And
I just don't think she's very on enough people's radars to give a shit, you know?
I don't know if that's true. Crazy Rich Asians was like a massive hit. She's the star of Crazy Rich Asians, and
I mean, that's fine. I'm just saying that, like, I think that's fine. It's just like a couple
Corey,
years
everyone
later,
tried to tell me in the year 2019 that Hustlers was a good movie. Everyone was like, Hustlers is good. And then I watched Hustlers, and I was like, none of this is good. You guys just like Jennifer Lopez.
Well, it's and
I have no problems with Jennifer Lopez, but it's not a good movie.
That woman can't act, though.
Yeah. I mean, do you have anything else to say about this truly horrendous piece of shit television show?
Don't ever watch it. Because, like, even if you're, like, have, like, the whole, like, I just got out of playing Call of Duty or some shit like that, or just trying to ride that wave, it's so stupid and bad.
I'm actually really curious. Is it getting a second season?
I don't fucking know. I mean, Jack Ryan's on season 3 now, which is kind of crazy to me, but, you know.
I sort of, like, there's, like, a small part of me. It's probably the exact same part of me that hates the Terminal List that really enjoys Jack Ryan despite how stupid it is.
I'm about to talk about another one of these shows in, like, 3 seconds, so I got no fucking room to talk.
I do think that, like, the thing that's interesting about Amazon is they sort of do the Netflix thing in miniature where they find a niche that works and then they just like keep giving people that exact same thing. I'm actually really surprised that we haven't got like 400 versions of The Boys by now, like different types of superhero stuff.
We're already getting one more, so.
Yeah, no, but I'm surprised they're taking, like, that's by far their biggest hit.
Yeah.
Although maybe now Lord of the Rings has passed it. I didn't really look at the viewership numbers for that. I just saw that everyone hated it, but still
everyone watched it.
Well, also when I was doing my research for this podcast, like trying to refresh my memory of the shows that came out this year, I saw that show on a lot of top 10 lists, which is confounding to me because I was going to put it on my worst thing of the year because it is truly unwatchable, but I literally didn't watch it. So I felt I felt that wasn't fair. I watched
Well, I
the
don't think.
episodes
Well,
of it, and
I
was
no,
like,
I
this show's
think
horrendous. So
I think the thing about it is watchable, but the story is garbage. I think that's the problem.
what part of it's watchable?
The pretty parts, Che, with the nice cinematography
You can
and all
find
that other.
beautiful pictures on the internet without having to watch an hour of truly horrible dialogue and acting.
I'm just saying. Sometimes though, I like to watch. Just fucking whatever. It's a pretty show.
Well, it's coming back for season 2, so we're gonna
I
get
don't.
more
care.
of it.
I didn't finish the first fucking season. I didn't think it was that bad. I just didn't think it was that good. I just have like I have like very much like this was something that happened kind of feelings about the show, and I don't care.
I think the thing that I hated
not
most
stick in my
about
head.
it was not. It's a lot like Terminal List, where it wasn't the worst thing on TV. Obviously, like that's probably like Chicago Fire or something, a show I've never watched. But the reason I hated the Rings of Power so much is because I'm like watching it, thinking, "Oh, think of how fun it would be if this show was good." And it ended up being so bad, and it just like ruined my enjoyment of it. It was like the potential to loss ratio was so high on that show versus something like, I don't know, NCIS Los Angeles, which is like never going to be good. So who gives a shit? But sorry, apologies to all the NCIS Los Angeles fans. Definitely listening to this podcast right now who are like furious at me. But
I mean, I get it. I mean, like I just kind of also blanked out on the fact that it didn't include it last year, but you just reminded me how much I hated Wheel of Time, and every time I think about that show, it infuriates me.
yeah, Wheel of Time was another one that I just didn't even finish, so I didn't feel. I only rank shows that I finish the season, or if we get very, very close to the end of the season and like the year ends, I'll drop them in there. But for the most part, I think if you're telling a totality of a story in a season, that's the chance I should give you. And yes, Wheel of Time. I mean, I watched even less of Wheel of Time than I did of Rings of Power, so maybe that one's even worse.
I think I maybe watched like half of the first season. You know what the worst thing about Wheel of Time was? It made me not want to finish the books. And I think that's very impressive. That like I went back to keep reading the books, and I was like, "Oh wait, no."
Isn't it? I've never read the books, but isn't it nothing like them though? Like, isn't it so different?
Yeah, it's pretty different, but it's still at the same time. It's like I guess we're never gonna get an adaptation of this, which kind of makes me sad about things sometimes.
Yeah.
But
Before we move on,
maybe
Corey,
yeah,
do you want to
please.
place a guess on the Rotten Tomatoes score of Wheel of Time, a show that we both agree was essentially unwatchable?
I'm gonna say 33%,
You want a second guess, a little bit higher? Or try again?
a little higher.
A little higher. Just a
I'll
little.
give it 45.
82% on Rotten Tomatoes.
It looked bad. It
This
wasn't
is-
just story wise. It looked bad too.
Once
It
again,
looked
ladies and
cheap.
gentlemen, I have to keep reminding you.
It's
that
kind of confusing why Lord of the Rings looks so fucking good and Wheel of Time looks like somebody just did a CW pilot.
Well, Wheel of Time is like a
Mm-hmm.
test. It's like a test run for. That's the whole point of it. Is that they basically just like test run. Can we do this with Rings of Power? I don't really know why they test run it because Wheel of Time didn't go well. Nobody watched it, and they still were going to make Rings of Power anyway. But Rings of Power is like $1 billion production. That's why it looks so
Yeah.
good. Yeah, 82% on Rotten Tomatoes, ladies and gentlemen. As once again, I have to remind you, it's a number and a website that doesn't mean anything. Don't
Nah.
use it to
listen
dictate.
And
what
even
is
I
good
mean,
and bad.
go to Metacritic, but even then, that's still kind of always a toss up.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about good shit now. We don't have to.
Let's
We
do
don't
it.
have to keep shitting on the. There was a lot of bad TV this year, but I mean, this was an absolutely incredible year of television. As everyone continues to say, we are really in the golden age of television. Let's talk about some shows that we finished and loved. Honorable mentions, Corey. You want to go first? What's your first
Sure.
honorable mention? That didn't quite make your top 10.
Didn't quite make my top 10. A real one I want to throw in real quick, and I forgot to let Che know this. I did really like 1899, but not really enough to remember it for an honorable mention list. So moving on from that. Speaking
Yeah, that's
of
the Netflix show from the Dark.
the
people, for
Netflix
those of you
show,
who don't
yeah,
know.
which Dark kind of really hooked that was the favorite show I watched this year, but it's a couple years old, so it doesn't count. But my first honorable mention is, as speaking of the bored at home white dad stereotype, a show that I cannot say is good, but I will say it was a very enjoyable show, and that was Reacher.
There was not many things that were more fun than
Yeah.
than Jack Reacher in the year 2022. I will admit that it is a preposterous television show with the
It
guy
makes
from
no
like
sense.
what was that show called
Blue Mountain State.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
killing everybody. But
It's completely silly and over the top, and I'm like, this show knows what it is, and I think that's what made it very fun.
I think that is actually a distillation of why I think there is a big difference between a show like Terminal List and a show like Reacher. One, Reacher's just like more fun, and I think a lot of the acting is way better, but it knows exactly what it is. I think Terminal List genuinely thinks it's like a real hard-hitting expose about not expose, but like a hard-hitting dramatic story about
I think it
dealing with
does.
PTSD and like this thing. And it's not. It doesn't do any of those things well. It's written so shittily, and the plot is nonsense, all that stuff. Jack Reacher, the plot is nonsense and all that other things, but it knows it's like a goofy, fun action ride, which is
very much
great.
like it's like this is a storyline. It's insane, but this is the storyline, and we're gonna get to the end of it, and then we're gonna move on. I mean, that's helpful that it's a book, but still, a show that I'm not saying it's not a good show, but if it's a very fun show, and it's something that I like, kind of like hitting that middle ground of like, oh, action movie as a TV show, which I feel like that's a lot more difficult to do because,
and I don't know if we've ever really successfully managed to do it in the. Like, I can't think of a really great action movie TV show, like those type of single hero action movies as TV shows. And if I'm missing one, I'm blanking. The one that comes sort of to mind is Gangs of London, one of my favorite shows of last year and this year, but it's quite different than even like The Raid, the other movies that Gareth Evans made.
And I wouldn't even like classify it really. It's like, I mean, it definitely has its action scenes, but for the most part, it sometimes will just go an episode. And I'm like, then there'll just be like a popped off action scene. I'm like, oh yeah, this is what this show is kind of about sometimes. But not saying that as a detriment. I'm just saying that's what kind of the show is. At least with Jack Reacher, he's like at least punching one person in the face per episode.
I mean, maybe more than one person per episode.
The episode kind of where he slapped the show. The open hand slap of that man is still one of the funniest / most gratifying things I've ever seen in my life.
Yes. Great slap scenes, great action scenes. Is it the worst sex scenes in television history?
Yes.
It's up there, right?
Because he's like 4 times bigger than her. And like, all the logistics of it doesn't make any sense.
There's not one single part of you that believes that these two people want to have sex with each other.
No. If anything, I kind of liked it where I was like, oh, they're just like a very like well done heterosexual partnership. And they're fucking, I guess.
I think nobody would have complained if they were just friends.
I don't think anybody needed them to fuck, but it is what it is.
Yeah. No, I thoroughly enjoyed Reacher. I told Corey that it was low down on my list. I was thinking objectively this is not like a great piece of television.
No, it's what I'm saying. Like, honorable mention. I'm just saying like I didn't want to rank it anywhere. It's just like this was fun.
I fully intend to watch the entire second season of the show. Like the second it gets released.
Absolutely, and I can't think because it's like you need those turn your brain off shows sometimes. Do you want to do yours? Or you want me to finish out mine?
No, I'll throw in some of mine. One of my honorable mentions is on Corey's list, so I'll quickly mention it, but we're going to talk about it later. That's House of the Dragon. I basically just missed my top 10. I would say 11 or 12 maybe. On a different day, I might have had it in the 10. But I just want to throw in a couple of absolute classics from HBO this year that were fantastic. Barry continues to be incredible, and then we had 3 new shows from them. Winning Time, which everyone hated that it was not realistic and shit on Jerry West. The 2 points to that is I don't give a shit about like the history of the Lakers, so it was incredible, and I definitely don't give a shit about Jerry West, so those things didn't bother me. But if those are your complaints, fair enough. I mean, if you're
looking at that show going into it, it's like it's clearly going to be a bit over the top, or
it's almost like no one has seen an Adam McKay movie before when they started watching the show. Like his whole thing is he embellishes and makes things more comedic and more like caricatures of themselves. It doesn't really bother me that much because I don't think you should go into TVs and movies that aren't called documentaries expecting to get documentaries, but some people do for some reason. I know a lot of like hardcore basketball fans were really mad at the show, but
fuck that.
I sort of get that. If there was like a TV show about the history of tap dance, I'd probably be pissed if it got stuff wrong, but I would try to remember that most people don't give a shit about like Savion Glover's true origin story. And the last two I wanted to mention from HBO before we
There
throw it
goes
back
my
to you.
TV show idea, just completely just bastardizing and making up the
Corey,
history
I'm
of tap
I'm saving
dancing.
you because zero human beings would watch that television show.
It's
I'm doing
okay.
you a favor. It would be me and a couple of your
It'd be
friends
the
watching it, and that would be it.
Top 10 listen to you. The greatest show no one watched.
Yeah. Well, we had a couple miniseries from HBO that I also wanted to mention that didn't quite make my list. We Own the City, the excellent true history of the Baltimore cops after the corruption in Baltimore cops after the murder of Freddie Gray, and like how the department changed and got even more somehow even more fucked up. It was a infuriating television show, as all George Pelecanos and David Simon shows are. Obviously, the guys that brought us The Wire, one of the greatest television shows of all time. We Own the City's not quite The Wire, but it gives you, like, if you're really like jonesing for a Wire hit, it's like obviously Baltimore cops, all that stuff. It's kind of the same vein, and I really loved it. And it's got maybe my favorite John Bernthal performance of all time in it. So that's another recommendation. And last but not least, before I throw it back to Corey, Irma Vep is, if you are like a TV movie addict like me, this is a perfect show because it is a meta experience of like the TV movie industry, where it's a remake of a movie, Irma Vep, that is about remaking a movie. And it is like this Russian nesting doll of references and visual flourishes, and I truly loved like every second of it. I think Alicia Vikander is brilliant in it, and it's one of the only things that's like, there's not much else like it on TV. I would say go into it with like if you haven't watched it yet and this makes you want to watch it, go into it with no expectations and like open eyes, because it gets weird at times, and I think it was like just a true joy. So that's my I just want to shout out a lot of the HBO stuff because I think they're doing a lot of great stuff for the time before David Zaslav burns it to the ground to like make Magnolia TV or whatever he's trying to do. But Corey, I'll throw it back to you for your last honorable mention.
Sure. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. If you guys can hear the phone in the background, I cannot help it. It seems like a telemarketer is bothering my dad's home phone for some reason.
I can't hear it on the Discord, so it's there's a chance you're not getting picked up.
It's very far away, so I doubt it. But I can hear it every once in a while. But my honorable mention is a show that's already canceled on Amazon. It was Paper Girls. Thought it was a good adaptation, not a great adaptation, not a great show, it was just good. I mean, I watched the entire thing, and I was actually excited to see where they were going to go in the second season, so it's a bit more just disappointing that we can't really explore that more.
Are they shopping it, or it's just done?
I have no
didn't really
idea.
follow the news on it.
I figure that they're probably going to try to shop it somewhere, but I haven't really followed the news up that much, but because, I mean, if anything, the show, you know, it was a lot of things where I'm like, I definitely would have done a lot of things differently than what they did. But overall, I didn't think it definitely didn't deserve to get canceled. I thought it, like, if anything, at the very end, it got a lot more interesting. You know, so it's kind of like an honorable mention if you guys are ever in the mood for, like, kind of just a fun show, I guess, with some great sci-fi elements in it. I would check out Paper Girls, but a bit more just disappointing that the show got canceled.
Last on my list before we jump in, Bad Sisters, Apple Plus TV show. Incredible concept. A bunch of sisters tried to murder their truly garbage brother-in-law, and it is like just a real celebration of all of the great things about Ireland. I love all the actresses in it: Sharon Horgan, Eve Hewson, Sarah Green. Just an excellent team of from top to bottom. If you have Apple Plus, you should be watching the show. This and House of the Dragon were the ones that just barely missed my top 10. And the only reason the show wasn't like top 5 is because I think the evil man in the show is in some ways too evil. We were talking about Ducks yesterday in our best comic books of the year and how men are garbage, and it is true, but this guy's like garbage in a way that only like literally Satan would be. And it sort of undercuts part of the show, I think, but I still really enjoyed it.
What were we watching where the villain was just so mustache twirlingly evil that it was just kind of distracting after a while? Something
was
we
it
talked
this
about
year?
recently. I think it might have been something recently, but I can't remember what. If it was, maybe it was a book we were reading. It's like these people are just so evil that to the point of just like comedic value, and you kind of just lose it for their like perpetual state of being an asshole, I guess.
The criticism sounds familiar. I can't remember what you're talking about though. I don't.
Yeah,
I'm
me neither.
blanking
It
on
just sounds like a conversation we have, and I'm like, I think I was just watching it. I'm like, I don't think I can watch this because it's just so like.
He is like so evil to the point at which it's impossible to fathom a reason why they would have ever got together in the first place. Like, there's no redeeming qualities about him at all, and a lot of the show is in flashback, so it could have given us the chance to see like one moment where these two characters have like a conversation that isn't hostile, or like he does something even slightly nice for her. But literally the entire show, and it's like a great performance by I think it's Khalees Bang, who is a truly incredible villain. He's like loathsome to the point of like I wanted to strangle him through the screen, but the character is just it's layers it on a little bit too thick for me. But again, the show is like number 11 or 12 on my list of this year, so it was still incredible. But yeah, that's all I have to say about the shows I just missed. We'll just take a quick break and then we'll come back and talk about our top 10s.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a God. I don't know. But I do know there's a them. Same ones in that room right now deciding my fate. So I guess I'll just wait for the whistle.
This time they left it up to us. The team already voted on it.
Damn, Bennett. Damn.
You did your best.
I appreciate it, Captain.
I was the deciding vote.
And we're back.
Sup?
All right, first up is Corey's number 10. Corey, what is your number 10 television show of the year 2022? Give it to the people.
Sure thing. My first show is the HBO Max animated series Harley Quinn.
Live from Crime Alley's Monarch Theater, it's the 83rd Annual Villy Awards. Here's your host, the ace of knaves, the clown prince of crime, Joker.
Ah, shit. I'm late for my 8 o'clock. I've got a show to host. Tonight's the night we celebrate the bad guys. We fight it out every day for the real prize. The awards for those they demonize. We're here for gold. I've won my share. Tonight's the one night we play it fair. From Killer Croc to Firefly, throw those hands up in the sky. Put on a smile.
This is beyond messed up.
You know, I should hate him, but damn it, the girl's got moves.
We're throwing that.
I think it says it's a show that keeps on getting better and better. Initially, I kind of very much dismissed the idea. I think for pretty much the entirety of the first season, and then I just sat down and ended up binging it in like 2 days.
We always talk about how DC animated is like probably of the people making movies other than the MCU is the best.
Like,
and maybe
most,
including the MCU now is the best.
We already had our MCU conversation. We don't need to throw ourselves down that rabbit hole once again. Harley Quinn's been a really solid season. I thought it had a really good progression, and if anything, they definitely relied more on a story this season, which I really did think was to the benefit. In our comic book podcast, we were talking a lot about Poison Ivy and how good her comic book is. You guys should go listen to that if you guys did not get a chance to do that already. And I just really love what these creators are doing with this show consistently while keeping it incredibly funny and sometimes stupid, but also being very self-aware and just making a really good show. Love the cast of characters. Can't wait for the new season. I mean, I even read the comic on the in-between just because I need the content so much. Something I didn't think was going to work when I saw it initially pitched, and I'm happily wrong with this show.
Yeah, I it's another thing that like I was talking about, like production companies learning lessons from stuff. I'm just surprised that more like with the success of this and the success of like Invincible, I'm just surprised we're not getting more adult like animated shows targeted towards adults. I think there is obviously a real desire for them, and I think Harley Quinn is like a ton of fun. And obviously people agree. And we were talking the other day. I don't really know why we didn't get an Invincible season this year. It's very sort of weird.
Must be just production time, I guess. But yeah, no, it's my number 10, Harley Quinn. If you guys have not given that show a chance yet, it's so fucking funny. I really recommend it.
Yeah, definitely in agreement. All right, we'll go over to my number 10, which is the Hulu original The Bear from earlier this summer, starring Jeremy Allen White, Ebon Moss-Bachrach, who will make another appearance on this podcast, so I should learn his name because he's a big part of this year. And of course, Jesus Christ, Ayo Edebri. It's also early in the morning for me. I'm struggling here, but the show was just like a real shock, honestly. Not a shock, but I didn't have a ton of expectations going into it. I was like, I kind of like Jeremy Allen White, even though like I like him on Shameless, even though I think that show is not super great, but I think his performance is interesting, and I like cooking shows. We talked about The Menu earlier in the year about how like some of the best parts of that movie were the very few moments we actually got to see of cooking. I think there's like a real dynamic element to shooting chefs that is interesting, and the concept of the show is really brilliant. Like this guy who comes from Noma gets his brother tragically dies, also played by John Bernthal in a great cameo, by the way. But he comes back to run his family's like basically sandwich shop in Philly, and he is like surrounded by this interesting cast of characters that were working at the restaurant before, and it just has a lot of just great performances in it, which is a big part of the success of it. But the way the narrative around these characters it develops over the show, you sort of think it's one thing, and then as the show goes further on, you learn more and more about these more complex characters, and it ends up being a really, really beautiful character study of this store or this sandwich shop. And I'm really excited for the second season. I think they've got something super special on their hands, which is I'm a big fan of what Hulu's been doing. I know, sorry, technically this is like FX Hulu, so like I have a ton of FX shows in my top 10, as we're going to see. I think them and HBO really have like this shit on lock. The quality is better than almost anybody else out there. And yeah, this is another example of how they sort of find gold out of what seems like the rough. Yeah, if you haven't seen The Bear, you definitely need to go check it out.
Definitely, it's been on my list for a second, and it's one of those shows that like I'm definitely whenever we do one of these lists, I usually just take Che's list and just go sit down and watch everything, and I'm very excited to sit down and get a chance to watch The Bear.
There's a lot of like, I mean, Jeremy Allen White's giving like one of the best performances of his career. I think is a big part of it is he gets to do so much emotional work in this show. It's a bit of like it's a really rich part. Like I think he just gets to do a ton of interesting stuff because of the nature of the character, and the narrative is really, really great. If you like I'm saying, if you haven't seen it, definitely go check it out before.
Yeah, man, I got that's definitely excited to actually finally get that a watch, because I'll stop being lazy and watch The Bear.
All right, Corey, what's your number 9?
My number 9 is a show Che fucking hates. No, I'm just kidding. I'm joking. He just strongly dislikes it.
You're not wrong. I do really kind of hate this show, but so be it. This is not.
All right, Che hates women, so my number 9 show is She-Hulk. This show is one of those that like it also surprised me a lot. I was surprised how much fun I had with it. I didn't really know what to expect with it as like someone who like read like the She-Hulk comics when I first got into comics. I didn't exactly know what tone Marvel was going to go in with it, and I'm kind of happy it leaned into a bit more of the silliness with this character rather than go in the many directions it could have. My biggest gripe with it was like it was just I kind of just wanted more of this kind of show because it just felt like very much like it could just be monster of the week type of thing where we could just be dealing with a different case, and I didn't even really need a plot line as it did. But I don't know, I really enjoyed it. I kind of liked the way it ended. I thought it was a pretty just all around fun show. But yeah, no, I mean it's like listen, clearly there's two different takes on it. I can't say it's for everybody, but I enjoyed it. If you're looking for something lighthearted, I gotta recommend it.
Yeah, I mean, I've given my thoughts on She-Hulk. We need to cover them now. It's about celebrating the show. I will say I love Tatiana Maslany as She-Hulk. I think she's a great addition to the MCU. I'll be interested to see when she shows up next. I don't know. We haven't gotten a confirmation on that yet, have we? What the plan is?
I mean, I think even in that episode, they were very honest in being like, we don't know what the fuck we're gonna do with you next, kind of mentality. But I got to imagine that she's gonna pop up soon. I mean, you gotta use her, right?
I mean, yes, I would think for a number of reasons they've got to use her. Some of them contractual, but also she's great. I mean, I think she's an excellent actress.
I think she's going to be around for a while. I think there's kind of just being a little hush hush right now before they lay all their plans out, because we really don't know much about what Marvel's doing besides, I know Ant-Man's coming up. We got a kind of an idea about that. Guardians of the Galaxy and Loki season 2. Besides, I don't think we've seen a single thing. So
yeah, and we've gotten a lot of introductions to characters and no real indication of when they'll be back, including like the Eternals, Moon Knight. We do know when Miss Marvel will be next scene, so there is that.
That's true.
She's the
that's
only
right.
one that we have like a real sense of what the plan is with her. But for the most part, everybody else that we've seen that's been introduced, it sort of like got dropped on us and then disappeared into thin air.
And also, I got to imagine things are getting a bit shook up again because of Disney's leadership change. But we're gonna see what happens, I guess, with that.
I wonder how siloed this is with Feige, though. I wonder if, like, because of how successful he's been, they just sort of give him enough rope that this return of Bob Iger won't affect the MCU much going forward. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. I don't have. I will be interested to see when we get because obviously they still have Mark Ruffalo too. So I wonder if we'll just get more Hulk shit down the line. But yeah.
I'm excited too. I mean, I hope so as well.
All right, my number 9. My number 9
yes, Jay,
is Reservation Dogs. Another
what a good show.
Another FX show. I actually think this season was maybe even better than the first season, which I really loved. But as with a lot of sitcoms, or we need to find a different word for shows like this, because it's not really a sitcom in the way that like Seinfeld or even like Community, a show that I love, are. It's a very different genre, but when you have a show like this, the first season tends to be about exposing you to the characters and getting introduced to this group of people you're going to be spending time with. And I love the first season, but once we really get in the groove and the second season can do a lot of interesting stuff, Sterling Harjo has something truly special here on his hands. I love basically all the performances, and this season gets more in depth in the characters of Bear and Willie Jack and Alora, who now that I've been watching the Willow show, every time I hear Alora Dannon, I think about Reservation Dogs versus what she's named after, which is the character from Willow. But I don't know if I have like a ton of stuff to say, because this show is like, it's so beautifully strange, and because of the nature of the fact that it's like a show about Native people that you don't get a ton of. We've gotten more of it in recent years. We're getting more representation, which is nice, but I think this show is like something different. It's something special. And because it's the entire production team and writing team and directing team and cast are all Native people, like I think mostly Canadian, but also a few Native American people as well. I find it taps into something really different and special, and it's also just like fucking hilarious at times. Like some of the funniest shit is in this show.
I love how it's always like, I don't want to say like Twin Peaks it is, but like how like off everything is about their town. But I like it's a very just fun little I had this like fun. It's not really big fun, but it's like a good
I think
sandbox.
it's got a lot of I think it's got a lot of fun.
It's a good sandbox to play around in. I really like the tone, especially from that first episode was super strong too.
Yeah.
Just kind of definitely just draws you in, for sure.
Yeah, and this season, one of my favorite episodes is when we do more the flashback episode about their friend who committed suicide, and we get more revealed about the relationship he had than they had with him. And I kind of liked that it was like imperfect. Like he's not the show. You see this flashback of him, and he's kind of like annoying. He's a little bit of a dick, like a lot of people's friends are. You just get annoyed with them sometimes, but you realize when they're gone, all the stuff you really loved about them. I think the show's really beautiful. If you're not watching it, I think you really need to be. This is truly special. Another hit for FX/Hulu. So I'm a real shill, I guess. It wasn't really the plan, but when you make good shit, I'm going to talk about it.
Man. I'm about to say, okay, I was about to set myself up, but never mind. All right. My number 8 is never mind.
Wait,
my number 8 is
what were you gonna say? I'm very curious.
I was gonna say, like, speaking of corporate shills, I thought I was gonna do another Disney Plus show, but what I actually have is an HBO Max show, Tokyo Vice.
Close. I mean, honestly, close enough, right?
Close enough. I mean, I just hate this company. I do. But
we hate the company, but I still think the content production team, like the creative team here, is still one of the best. It's inarguable.
Yeah, and that's the thing I'm just kind of worried about is let's see how hopefully they can still keep making like cool shows like this. And I think Tokyo by Che and I talked about it a little bit, but this is just like a really well shot. I think it's like one of my favorite shows to look at.
Yeah.
And
it's one of the only shows that makes Tokyo look like a real fucking, like a grimy city, which I really like. Like a lot of things you watch in Tokyo, they make it look like really glitzy and fun, and I get that too. That's always fun too.
Always neon lights. Someone has a samurai sword for some fucking reason. That's just what I assumed Tokyo was like for a long time.
Having this different view of it, of this different aesthetic of Tokyo is, I think, really, really effective. I was surprised, but very excited to see that we're getting a second season of the show. I think the ending confused me a bit. I don't know the literal last shot of the show I was confused by, which is, I think, a lot of reason why I dropped out of my top 15 is because I don't get why they did that. But I don't want to spoil it. We won't talk about that in particular.
Yeah.
It's definitely still worth watching.
Absolutely. No, I was surprised too. Like I think I mentioned the show like second season. Like, it's getting another season because like I don't really look for I just kind of assumed it was just kind of going to be a one and done, which is how everything worked out. Because I had to assume the show's also partially expensive for like shooting locations and stuff like that too.
I wonder if it's probably I haven't looked into it, but it's probably a joint production with a Japanese production company. The same
it
way
has
that
to be.
They do a lot of stuff with like joint productions with BBC, like obviously his Dark Materials, which we were talking about off the pod, is a joint production with BBC, and that probably cuts a lot of the cost for HBO and Warner on the back end. And that baseball's not super important to this, but I think that's part of why it's probably coming back for a second season. On top of the fact that I'm sure they just want to make shit with Michael Mann. Like Michael Mann, obviously the big name producer behind this. And when you do stuff like that, you just get more pull when it comes down to it, really. But yeah, sorry, we don't need to talk about all that. Nobody gives a shit about that except for you.
But it's still important to us, and that's who this we listen to our own podcast, like because we're insane people. I'm kidding. I don't do that. That would be fucking insane.
That's like serial killer behavior. Listening to your own podcast. I have to do it like once for the edit, and then I never think about it ever again.
It's like my problem is whenever I do like editing or something I guessed it on or whatever, and just like, oh my god, this is what I sound like. This is horrible.
But I jumped into anything else you want to say about why you like Tokyo Vice so much?
I think it was just the tone. I think it just felt like I liked the tone so much with it, where it's an approach to crime, and I really did feel like a very fish out of water situation, especially with the way that we're like developed and like introduced to our main character, who's also a kind of doing a bit of learning on the job. I think it was a really effective way to tell the story and explain the story to you during it. Yeah. And it kind of got me into like, I think I read a bunch of like Japanese crime novels like right afterwards too. Just because it's like a very just interesting environment where it's like, it feels so foreign, but a lot of things like just so familiar about it. And Yeah, I feel like I got very quickly sucked into the role with it. I think like just the casting was really well done too, because he's not a good dude, but like just fucking that gigantic man just towering over all. It just makes it feel like he feels like a fucking alien in comparison to everybody else. And it does.
We don't need to talk because I'm not super clear about why Ansel Elgort's just like chill now. I haven't really followed the story. I don't super want to talk about it because again I haven't followed
Absolutely
it.
not.
But
No,
I'm with you
saying,
that I
at
think
least...
he is a performer in this. I think he is kind of like the perfect pick. He's got like the innocent face but he can really play a true dickhead when it turns, because you find out during the show that this guy who when you first get there seems like a sort of a carefree, loves to dance. Like I think the first time we see him he's dancing in the club, right? And he's like
he's like hardcore. Everybody else. Yeah, it's a headbanging where I'm like, I've seen this same man before at many clubs.
and as the season goes on, you realize more and more how he's not the best guy by any stretch of the imagination. So
no,
yeah,
I think it's like I think it's a very like slow burn of a show where like you kind of fall into that gray area, which I think it's also a really cool idea too from the show, where it's introduced like the entire law system or law enforcement that we're told about is everything's black and white. You're either like very much like where they're gonna just sweep this under the rug or you're guilty, basically. Mm-hmm. And I like that their show is basically just everyone exists in this shades of gray. And I also really like their first scene where they just kind of have that flash forward.
Yeah.
Of him just doing that. Like, this guy seems insane. Is he just like trying to like fuck with this Yakuza dude? I'm like,
yeah. I think the show does a real good a job of like upping the stakes as it goes along, especially again, I'm not spoiling it, but the last episode, it goes like buck wild right as the show ends, which really made me think. I was like, oh, I hope we get a second season of this. Even though if the show had ended there, I actually think in a lot of ways it's a pretty perfect ending for it. This leaves it on a cliffhanger, which sometimes I really like. But yeah, I thought this was a very singular experience of Tokyo, and also just like I never want to ever go to one of those weird clubs that like.
You sure?
It seems awful. Like
I still never understood. Like, I think we were talking about this like off air, but it's just like I still never really understand how lonely you must be to like go to one. I'm like, I'm going to a place to pay you to sit with me, then I gotta pay for your shit too. Yeah. This does not seem like a fun time for me. I'm not having a good time.
Obviously, the saddest part was the hostess in the other place who was spending all her money in like the male host bar, which was like, what the fuck, man?
There's a lot of
you know how insidious. You know what the point of this is. You know they're lying to you because you do this every day, and then she was still. But I mean, yeah, there's lots of lonely people now who are falling for very sad schemes. But
like this podcast, and you guys is listening to it. Hey, what's going on?
The only people in this are handsome chads.
Exactly. Everyone here is cool as shit.
All right, my number 8.
Yes,
number
please.
8 is a BBC original. If you're in America, you can watch it on BritBox. This is the Martin Freeman cop drama, The Responder.
Only got water. What is the point of you, Kev? I'm depressed.
Yeah, so am I now.
Any Delta Patrol available to check out another one of Smiggy's parties, please?
So where's your social worker? Cuts, not with that sort. I've got an assessment in 2 weeks, and the fella I saw first...
Right, I need you to get to the point, Kev. Are you a mentalist right now, this minute?
Mentalist?
No. I'm just sick of all this. Sick of all this shit.
A sword, though.
You could have been shot.
Well, what else can I do? I mean, no one listens to me. I don't get any help, so I'm having to help myself.
We hear where you're coming from, mate. Fuck me, I would love to go about with a sword, but you can't. Because none of us are getting the help we need, Kev. But if you let them see how much fucking life is getting to you, they're going to use it against you, mate. You have got to keep it inside. Do you understand?
It is about a police officer who is like more embroiled in the criminal world than he wants to be, and him trying to get out as things start to hit the fan. And it is a pretty, honestly, like boilerplate script. Like it's a pretty paint by numbers story. Nothing super inventive happens in there. I do love the plot. Like I think I love a good cop drama, and when they are good, which is rarely. But the thing that elevates this show is I really do believe that Martin Freeman's performance in this might be not just on TV, but in the year period, might be the best performance I've seen. It is otherworld. Like, first of all, Martin Freeman is like fucking incredible always. I don't need to pitch Martin Freeman to anybody on this podcast. I think this Responder performance is like fucking incredible. And there's like there's moments of him dealing. A lot of the show is about him dealing with his mental health and him going to like department issued therapy, and there is a truly horrendous moment in it where his fucking therapist forgets his name, and it like that scene is hard to watch. Freeman is so good in this. Like I said, you can watch it on BritBox if you're in America. I highly recommend it. It is pretty short. I think I'm 6 episodes. I think, as all British TV shows are, you can get in and out pretty quick. So, yeah, I don't have a ton else to say. But literally the reason it's number 8 is because I think this is a truly legendary performance. Like maybe an all timer from Freeman, and I think I wonder if this show's more popular in the UK than it is here. I don't have a great sense of like what the viewership numbers were on the BBC, but I'm also I want to shout it out because I think this show needs more attention. The last great thing that Freeman does in America shouldn't be the Hobbit movies.
We don't talk about that.
Although his other current ongoing show was pretty close to my top 10 as well, Breeders, which is another really great show. That's another bleak.
And also, I think
comedy.
he's headlining the Secret Invasion TV show coming up too from Marvel. So,
Cory, what's your number 7?
My number 7. Speaking of Marvel, Miss Marvel. I think it's funny. I didn't binge the show. We watched the first episode a long time ago, and then I sat down and binged the show probably 2 or 3 months ago, and it was just a very nice and wholesome ride.
Yeah.
While also being not like, I mean, I hate to say educational, but I definitely think it's one of those shows that felt kind of important in the fact that the things they were talking about and the honesty they did with it very clearly came from a very like heartfelt and good place. And I liked it seemed like they kind of were able to do whatever they wanted with this show to an extent.
Yeah.
And that made for some very interesting visual choices. And I think, especially that first episode, kind of very much showing, not telling Kamala's character in a really quick and neat way. And I think the main actress, coming from an unknown, she's really charming, and I'm excited to see more of her.
Literally first IMDb credit ever, which is crazy to think about.
It's like, and your career is now just great forever. Basically now, like, hey, you're locked in at least basically for like 10 years. You got a job with more, as long as you don't fuck it up, basically.
Yeah.
But I thought it was a really nice show, really charming. It was like, this is what Stargirl wanted to be, but it wasn't.
Oh man, did you ever watch Stargirl?
People like that show. Apparently,
I watched the first episode. It's another one of my one and
talked
dones.
about it. We talked about it. We talked about the first episode of Stargirl, and I think my comment was, it's like it was like, this is like CW if it had more money, and then it went to the CW.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was probably the exact same production arm that was doing it, so it doesn't.
It was just a little bit more money. That's all. But no, I really like Miss Marvel. I liked the entire way through. I liked the conclusion of it. Another instance of just incredibly evil mustache twirling villains to shoot at children is still one of the more insane things that happened in a TV show.
To be fair, they were trying to get back to their universe.
How fucking dare they? No, but congratulations to Marvel's first mutant. But yeah, no, Miss Marvel. Che, what's your number 7?
My number 7 is essentially the opposite end of the tonal spectrum from Cory. If Miss Marvel was like hunky dory, happy fun, this show is a truly brutal experience about the sadness and the sorrow that is inherent in the medical system, but it's great. This is going to hurt. I think it's another BBC show, but if you're in America, you have to watch it on AMC Plus. I'm aware that no human being besides me has AMC Plus, but you should get it. There's a lot of really good stuff on there, including This Is Going to Hurt. The Ben Whishaw performance is fantastic, and the Ambika Mod performance is also really great. That story arc is quite tough to watch. There's another show that I wouldn't recommend if you are the kind of person that's like squeamish about suicidal thoughts and that sort of thing. It is obviously, it touches on that, and it's about these two characters really struggling with the depression and the sorrow and like the loss of like your life, really, that comes with devoting yourself to the medical world. And it's just great. I think this show, I have a friend who's a doctor, and I watched the first episode with him, and unlike most doctor shows, it's like very true to life and true to the experience. And if you can sort of stomach the really sad parts of the show, and but we were talking about yesterday in relation to ducks and like It's Lonely at the Center of the Earth, and really a lot of our books from this year that we really loved. Yeah. This Is Going to Hurt has a lot of real moments of like true joy and comedy in it too, and you need both to really have a truly great story. And I think this is a truly great story from last year. It has not yet been picked up for a second season. The English shows, they tend to take much longer. I really hope we get to see more of this character, because I think there's more story to explore, but also the first season has a pretty complete story. So if it ends here, so be it. I think there's a lot of really, really great shit going on here. So I highly recommend it to anybody who's looking for another. If you just want to shed a few tears, this is a good one.
Oh, love a good cry when I love to feel bad. I'm just kidding.
I mean, every once in a while.
Sometimes you want something like that. I definitely know what that mood is. Sometimes you just like kind of need something to be like, I need something really fucking good to make me feel something. I didn't mean it like that. Sounds a lot sadder than it actually was. Well, all right, next up. I promise this is my last Marvel show on my list. But my number 6 is the Oscar Isaac starring Moon Knight.
You look scared.
No.
Well, you should be. Without Khonshu, there's no more suit, no more healing, no more power.
Yeah, no more you, I thought. That's what you said, isn't it? But I guess believing anything that comes out your mouth just shows what a plonker I am.
Look, I wish I could just disappear. I really do. But unfortunately, I'm still here. And if you are gonna go through with this, you gotta be smart, at least for Layla's sake. I've been in situations like this before.
So have I. It's the same body, isn't it? It's in there somewhere. Muscle memory and that.
Yeah, I'm not sure it works that way. Just,
whatever.
I'm here. You're not alone.
I know I'm not alone. I know I'm bloody not alone. I've got Layla. She's got my back.
Oh, you in love? Oh, you're in love with my wife?
I appreciate your concern, mate. I really do.
You lay one finger on her.
We've got it from here.
I swear to you, Stephen, I swear
if I need like a recipe for a protein shake or something, I'll call you.
Off a cliff.
Just a funky show. Another show that I really feel like they had a lot of freedom to do what they wanted. Oscar Isaac seems like he's having a fucking ball acting as two different people having arguments with himself.
It's kind of got to be one of the dream roles in the MCU, right? To just be.
I think so. Like, not super connected to anything, kind of can do whatever you want, get to wear a silly costume and have some fun.
Yeah, get to play like 4 people.
And seemingly probably gonna be more. It's just like, it seems like, it just seems like a really fun project to be working on. And another character, of course, who doesn't want more Oscar Isaac, but hopefully we'll see more of him. But especially the first couple episodes too, where everything was just very funky, and I kind of want to throw it back to like early days of Legion.
Yeah.
It seemed, but it didn't. Oh, Legion. I was gonna say, like, it's like Legion, it just didn't get bad.
Legion got so bad so quick too. It was like,
I remember
the
talking
first
about
episode of the last season, you're like, uh-oh, is Legion terrible now? What happened?
Yeah. It's like, he's a bad guy now. I'm like, Wait, when did that happen? And I remember I think I skipped like the finale for some reason of the second season. I'm like, I missed so much, and I went back and watched it. I'm like, I didn't miss that much.
No, it's not really that inherent in the. Whatever. We're not talking about Leech. We're talking about good TV though.
Yes, but no. I mean, like, I think Moon Knight is, especially out of this list, especially if you guys haven't really watched any Marvel shows, I think it's definitely the one that you can watch with literally no other, like, interference or whatever. And it's like just a really kind of cool, like, psychological, like, roller coaster. And even when the show ends itself, you're like, I still have questions. And I'm hopefully that it'll come back and give me some answers. But it's like that one of those shows that really will give you everything that you want out of it. But if you want some truly dark scenes in it, I can recommend this show as well. Towards the end of that show, oh my God, his childhood is...
the flashback, or like, I guess it's not, we call it a flashback, but yeah, sort of, the flashback scenes are a tough hang.
Tough hang.
But yeah, it is good. It's great Oscar Isaac performance. Love it.
Great.
All right, man,
what's your number 6?
My number 6 is Slow Horses, another Apple Plus BBC co-production in here. This is the Gary Oldman, Jack Lowden show that is about spies that have been shuttled off to a place called Slough House because they're fuck-ups, and what happens when the fuck-ups have to come save the day. It is a great premise for a show. So as of time of recording, the second season has not yet ended, but I included it on my list because the entire first season was earlier in the year, and I thought the first season was incredible. And actually the second season has gotten even better. I love the mystery in the second season a lot. It's like a Russian spy sleeper cell story. They are actually pretty segmented from each other. You should still, you couldn't just jump into the second season, and also why would you want to? If you haven't watched the show, I would say watch both seasons. And they're based on a series of books that I haven't read, so I imagine they're like one's based on the first book and the other one's based on the second. And it's already been renewed for a third season, so I'm just like all in on this show. Gary Oldman is giving one of the true like all-time dickhead performances on TV. He's such an asshole. I love it. And yeah, it's just I think this is one of the more fun shows I have on my list. It's just pure enjoyment. And if you love a spy thriller, which I love a great spy thriller, this is up there with the best of them. And anytime you've got a Will Smith written show, not that Will Smith, the good Will Smith from England, it's like worth checking out. I think he's one of the best TV writers we've got at the moment, and this is another testament to his ability to like have really propulsive television that just keeps you coming back wanting more and more and more. Yeah, I really had a lot of fun with this. I cannot wait for the finale, which at time of airing is like tomorrow, or time of recording is like tomorrow, and then can't wait for the third season either. So
I like how we have to specify now the good Will Smith. So way to go.
To be fair, this Will Smith has always been the good Will Smith as far as like quality of output has been concerned.
Now he is the good Will Smith in the other way.
As far as like humanity is concerned, yeah.
2022, not the year of Will Smith. Even though you won an Oscar, you fucking psychopath.
Have you watched Emancipation yet, Corey?
No, stop trying to make me watch that show.
I'm not trying to make you watch it. I'm just
you keep seeming like you want me to watch that show, Chad.
I just know you're a big Will Smith guy. I'm just looking out for you. I want to know.
No, not anymore. No. Don't put that on
to
me.
To be fair,
we both were big Will Smith guys, and then we both yes you had. Don't you fucking do this to me right now. Yes,
ladies and gentlemen, please go visit nexttimeon.net.
Oh my
and
God!
Go scroll back through the archives of the writing and find the story that's called, I think, like Rest in Peace Will Smith, in which I talk about how he's a terrible actor and his career is over. And this was before he slapped Chris Rock in the face, like 5 years before he did it. I am not a big Will Smith guy. I never have been. I was rooting for him because I root for all black people, except for after they slap niggas on stages. Then I don't root for them anymore.
I just took out my headphones so I didn't listen to it.
I listen. I also think we should be more. What's the word? Will Smith his career should not be canceled. I don't think like he's not Kevin Spacey. We should probably I just think maybe make a good movie, and then I'll be more willing to listen to your bullshit and your weird fucking family. But Corey, you want to go to break before I say more things about Will Smith?
Apparently, no. I think we should. Yeah. All right.
Take a quick break, and then we're gonna come back and talk about our top
more
fives.
Will Smith.
No
Will Smith.
more Will Smith this episode.
My father cannot give unbiased counsel to the king.
It is now that I must rue the absence of my own father. He wouldn't hesitate to speak the truth to the king if Otto Hightail was still at hand.
You cannot say, my queen, that your father would be impartial in this matter.
No, but he would be partial to me. In all of King's Landing, is there no one to take my side?
And we're back.
Sup?
All right, it's time, ladies and gentlemen, for the 5 or 10 best shows of the year, however you want to count it. Our two favorite 5 television appearances, television shows year, 2022, 5. We're good? Everybody's on the same page now?
Did you just have a stroke? What just happened?
I think we're all on the same page now. I was very clear, Corey. I don't know what you're talking about. Corey.
Oh, my God.
What is your 5th favorite television show of the year 2022? Tell the people.
Sure. My 5th favorite television show of the year is the most recent season of Stranger Things.
Dear Mike, today is day 185. I think I have finally adapted.
All right. Hold on to your butts, bro chachos.
I even like school now. I have made lots of friends. Even so, I am ready for spring break. Mostly because I get to see you. We will have the best spring break ever.
I think the problem, not the problem with Stranger Things, and the sad thing about Stranger Things is it'll just never capture the magic that was season 1 of it. But
Yeah.
I think
do you still think season 1's the best one? I know like the awe that we all
opinion,
experienced, that we're like, oh shit, this is like a ton of fun. I didn't really know I wanted this. You don't think season 2 is the best one? For me, season 2 is the best one of the 4.
Season 2 is my least liked, honestly. Wow. I did not like season 2. Yeah, no, I think season 3 was to me. I'm like,
season 2's
I like
the
season
Russians,
3.
Right?
Yes, season 3 is the one with the Russians.
Or I thought season 2 was the one with the Russians. Season 3 is the one with the Russians.
Season 2 is the one with Scott Astin's in it.
Oh yeah, okay. I like season 3 the best.
The one in the mall, right?
Yeah.
The mall one's really fun. Okay. I like season 3 a lot, and I think this was a good mix of that fun. Now that we have a little bit more character development, and I'd like the teams, or like the character, like I don't know what you call it, the character splits they decided to go with for this one.
Like the silos that they put them in.
Yeah, I mean the worst part about it, honestly, was just the 11 storyline, but everything else was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think even the show realized that they don't really care. They didn't care about 11 until obviously she needs to come and fight the big bad. But you can't not have 11 in Stranger Things. So
it was. I think kind of the scene that kind of sums that up was in towards the end of it, where was it Max, and I think 11 just pops up in her dream, and she's like, "What the fuck are you doing here?" And it's just like, I don't know. And it's just like the writers, I guess, were pretty much like, "She's there, I guess, just fucking deal with it." But I gotta say, also,
girl Sadie Sink in the Fraser vehicle. The
how was you said that was good, right?
I like the way we might be talking about it tomorrow.
Interesting. No, yeah, I think this was the season was a lot of fun. I will always be like more of a focus on Sadie. I think she's a really good actress, and I thought there was some really, really stellar episodes of television in this show.
Also, I've never felt older in my life than when I realized Sadie Sink is like 21. I'm like, I thought that was a 12-year-old. Is that what 21-year-olds look like now?
No, I think that's no. I think the point of all of those people was like, y'all look like you should be younger, and they're all. That's why fucking Tom Holland's like 25, but still looks like a high schooler. So
yeah. Well, no, at least. And
like,
I look at him and I'm like, that's a grown man. He has like a boy face, but Sadie Sink looks like a true child.
Yeah, that's,
I'm like,
that's
she can drink
true.
alcohol in a bar? What?
And it's like, I mean, like you and I, who like we're 30 and we both look like we're about to die. So it's like it just makes.
I am about to die, to be honest. It's wrapped for me. I might not see 2023. Let's be honest.
Someone's like, you look old. I'm like, fuck you.
Who said that to you?
My fucking little cousin.
You should have kicked him in the fucking face.
Yeah, no, she did get kicked.
Don't worry, I'll cut that out.
No, it's fine. She deserved the kick.
Yeah. I
didn't
say
drop
kick
kick
my
my
children.
Yeah. It was a love kick.
Is that what you're calling it?
Sure, whatever. All right, Che, what's your number 5?
My number 5 is going back to the Hulu well. I didn't plan this. This is not my fault. But the 3rd season of a show that I think I've talked about in the past, but has never quite made my top 10 list. And that is because I think this is by far the best season. That is Rami, which is the Rami Youssef. Again, calling it a sitcom feels really weird, but the Rami Youssef comedy drama, let's call it that. It's the Rami Youssef comedy drama that's on Hulu about a character who is, he's a Muslim American struggling with his relationship to religion because he wants to be like a devout and what he believes to be like a good Muslim, and also lives in a country that hates Muslims, and also is like a young man trying to date and find love. And in the age of Tinder, I can't say personally I understand the struggle between having to deal with that and like being true to your religion, especially as a Muslim, as I'm not myself. But a big part of the show is obviously his experience with like dating women, and less so this season, but in the past it's been about like his experience with like dating white women and being a Muslim man. And this season in itself taps into like a thing that I think the show has been skating around for a while, which is like Rami's the character, but also I imagine this is like in somewhat autobiographical, or not autobiographical, but like the way that Youssef himself feels. But Rami's relationship to like his past, his and what he's done in the past, and what that means about how he can like find absolution going forward, and I think like I was talking about Martin Freeman's performance in The Responder is incredible. Rami's performance in this show is like near the same level, like just a step below, but I think he's doing a lot of really interesting stuff here with the complexities of his character, both comedically, which I think there are moments in the show that are laugh out loud funny, and then he's also manages to build up true heart-warming, gut-wrenching stuff, leading to the closing of the final episode of this show, which I won't spoil, which really made me like question my reality. And I was like, I don't know, man. That's a
good any piece of entertainment should.
Yeah. And I there's a thing about the show that like I found actually this season really hard to watch on first viewing, and then actually when it ended, I was pretty down on it. And the more and more I thought about it, the more it grew in my estimation, because I think that this season in particular is about how awful these characters really are. Like the people you've been spending time with, they're all really true assholes in a way, and like this season is about like the bad things we do to one another and the people we love in particular, and his relationship with his mother, who's played by Haim Abbas, who people will probably know best from Succession as the wife in Succession. And speaking of Moon Knight, May Kalawi is in this season as the sister, and she continues to be incredible. I think the performances from top to bottom are really great. If you haven't been watching Rami, I would say jump in, start from the first season. It's obviously really great, but I think you will find a real reward when you get to this one, because I think there's a real true payoff for the build up from the first 2 seasons when we get here. I really loved it. I think it got renewed for a 4th season. I'm hoping we get to explore what the consequences are from the final episode here, because I think there is a lot to explore still with this character. So it's my number 5 pick.
But me, I've been meaning to check out Rami. It's just another one of Che's many shows that he keeps yelling at me about.
Not everybody can watch 65 TV shows and 70 movies in a year. Not everyone is a sick person like me. I'm a sick person.
You're a built person. You're built different. I don't really know what you're built for, but it's different. That's for damn sure.
I don't know what I'm built for either, but whatever it is, it makes me do whatever the fuck this was.
And whatever the fuck this was my number 4, and that was in the.
That's honestly what they should have called the TV show. They should have called it whatever the fuck this was.
And that was Peacemaker, because It was something. I think it's a show that actively happened at me.
Is it the most batshit first episode of a television show ever? Maybe.
It's definitely up there.
He explodes a woman.
Yes, he does. He explodes a woman after having sex with her, and there was also a fight with her while he's in his tighty-whities.
And then after he explodes a woman, you're just like, okay, so we have to do 10 more episodes of this show. How am I going to survive it? I don't know if I can make it.
Yeah, it's like, oh, what's this? Like, no, this like clearly this must be where we're starting. Like we're like it must be. This is the shark. This is the top. It can't get crazier than this. And it seems to just get crazier and crazier as the cast gets more and more introduced. Vigilante, who's one of my favorite television characters of all time. In the scene where he's just straight up berating these racists in jail is one of like just a fantastic 30 seconds of television.
It's great.
James Gunn is very good at making things. And I was surprised to see how well his formula / writing translated into television.
Yeah.
And I think we said this when Suicide Squad came out was, John Cena surprised me because he's actually like can act. And Peacemaker was like, oh shit, this man can act when he like actually has to.
I mean, people have been saying it since the beginning. I mean, that is what is inherent in being like a good WWE star is obviously it's essentially acting, and that's why so many of them have translated well. I will say, I think John Cena is a better actor than The Rock is. So.
I will 100% agree with you on that one. Just like, yeah, I think like Peacemaker, and I think it's funny, like where Peacemaker went from being like, how the fuck are they going to make a show about this to me desperately wanting it to never end.
Yeah.
And
we've got
another
one of these coming up where I was like, do we need a show about this character? And then halfway through like the first episode, I was like, yes, I need a show about this character.
Yes. I don't care what it's about. I don't give a shit. Just give me more of this toxic asshole as he just goes through it all. And the scene where he's playing the piano and then just like, what the fuck is happening right now? Oh, John Cena actually can play the piano. Sure, why the fuck not? This is what we're doing today.
Yeah, I mean, it is one of those shows. It's like true, unadulterated fun. It's like if you like Cory and I love a bit of violence and dick jokes, like this is the show for you. If you haven't, although to be honest, if you're both listening to this podcast and love violence and dick jokes and you didn't watch Peacemaker, congratulations from waking up from your coma.
Yeah, no, seriously.
Enjoy 2023.
That is not toast you're smelling.
Yeah, I thought this show was a ton of fun.
The show was a lot of fun. Oh man, I think what I realized, like, I think I might have messaged you, and I'm like, I think I love this show. As soon as the opening dance number happened, and I was just like, what is this?
I think there is actually no more perfect distillation of that show than the opening credits, where you're like, okay, so it's just a dance number for like 2 minutes. And it will happen every week.
Every episode. I think by the second one, I'm like, oh, this is like, I thought it was just a bit for the first one.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I was like, okay, great bit for the first one. And then the next episode comes and I'm like, all right, what's the actual opening title credits for the show? And nope, it's not.
It's the same exact one every episode. It does not depend. It does not matter how ridiculous the tone is. And part of me is like, I hope there's another one next season. I feel like there has to be, but.
What was funnier about the dance number though is like seeing people there's a couple people in the opening credits that you see every week dancing that have like a line in the show. That are
like the old man.
And you're like, those are going to be characters that come back, and they just aren't. They aren't characters that come back.
You get the entire cast to do this little thing. But there's also like that thing about Peacemaker too, where the plot actually was really good and it did a lot of very surprising things.
Yeah.
This is also, but at the same time, there's also a scene where he has to fight and kill a gorilla, I believe. So that's with a chainsaw.
Truly an insane piece of television. Yeah.
And like it's insanity that works. Yeah. I think I need to rewatch that show now after talking about it again. Jay, what you got?
Well, let's skip over my number 4 because my number 4 is your number 1, and we will get to it later. So let's just go straight into your third pick, which is House of the Dragon. Cory, you want to talk about
Hot D? Alrighty then.
That's literally why I said House of the Dragon, so that you wouldn't get a chance to say that.
But I did it anyway.
I know it's like the worst. I know you like a fucking. I can read you like a book, and I tried to skip to the end of the book, and you fucking turn the page on me.
I will never let you do that. A show that I thought was unnecessary and was gonna suck. Game of Thrones ended on such a sour note that I was just like kind of done with the franchise. And I watched the first episode in a state you should never try to consume media for the first time, recovering from a horrible stomach virus and just straight up dying on the couch while my friend put it on the television. And I'm like, all right, this is what we're doing today. And what a first episode to come back into this show with, where it just showed everything that's good about it and how raw and rough Game of Thrones was and what it could be under this specific type of direction.
Yeah.
No, it's just like it's like they brought Game of Thrones back and they didn't fuck it up, which is just surprising as shit. And all the performances were great. Even like the time skip as well, like worked. It took me a second, but it did work.
I was like, I know a lot of people got really discombobulated by that, but I'm a huge fan of Olivia Cooke and Emma Darcy. I think they're both fantastic actors, and I was really excited for the time jump because I know some people were like shocked by it, like didn't know it was coming. I think we both knew that it was coming, that it was like announced. I am a little bummed we didn't spend more time with the younger versions of them, obviously, especially Millie Alcock, who I think is like otherworldly good acting. But I'm with you, obviously. That's all I said. Like this show was like my 11th or 10th or 12th on the list, and just fantastic piece of television.
Agreed. I'm excited for the next season to come up.
We were talking about this a little bit with well, not a little bit. This was like kind of my point about Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, is like degree of difficulty. Like there's and like need for it to be good, and these both are like sort of parallels in that. Like because of how Game of Thrones ended, it's obviously a much different situation than Black Panther, which is because of a tragedy they ended up in this place and like had to make a necessary change. Because of two dickheads, we got a true awful season of Game of Thrones, and like this show needed to be good, and sort of like I thought I was really worried for it. And then it kind of blew it out of the water. I think the first season of House of the Dragon, I've said all year, is better than the first season of Game of Thrones. And I don't know if it'll reach higher heights, because I think Game of Thrones gets better and better and better until it drops off a cliff. But I really hope we do. I hope we see the show continue to improve as it goes on.
Yeah, it's like the saddest thing about Game of Thrones was that how good it was. That's the saddest part about it.
Yeah.
Fuckers.
It could have been there is a version of the world that we live in where season 8 lands all the planes that they had up in the air, and there was a lot of planes, and we're talking about Game of Thrones is the best television show of all time. That world doesn't exist anymore. It's like we've long since left that world, but yeah, I'm with you that I think House of the Dragon has a real chance to like redeem this franchise, and I loved this first season. So.
Jay, but you talked about your number 3.
Yeah, I'll talk about my number 3, which is Station 11. Now, so this is a show that people would have probably seen on a lot of people's lists from last year because almost all the episodes aired in 2021, but it did complete in 2022, and that's why it's on my list. I think this show, I know a lot of people who skipped it because they didn't want to deal with a show that is about a global pandemic that ruins the world. And let me be honest, I sympathize. I definitely get it. But I think the beauty of this show is that it's not really about the pandemic. Like the pandemic is obviously the kicking off point where like 70% of the population dies or something like that. It's much more deadly than the coronavirus, and puts the world back into this like I don't know, like an ice age, kind of like you get into this state where like humanity is back as hunter-gatherers walking around, and it is about the perseverance of humanity and like how we make our way through the world. And I don't know if I've seen many shows that capture tragedy more beautifully and hopeful in this than Station 11. I came out of Station 11, which is a show about like the end of humanity in a lot of ways, and you watch a lot of the characters you personally connect with have to die in this show, and I came out of it feeling like joy and hope, and that is a tough plane to land, I think, without being sycophantic. And this show is not overly sentimental or anything like that. And I think this was we're talking about degree of difficulty with House of the Dragon. I think it's a degree of difficulty for a different thing. Like it's the plot they've decided to capture is like, especially when they did it. And when they made the show, when they shot and wrote the show, they didn't know about the coronavirus. This show was shot.
And the book came out.
Yeah.
The book came out in 2014.
Right. I mean, the people who were like, I think there are people who are like, oh, what are the timings? This is like a thing people knew was coming for a while. The global pandemic, the possibility of this was like a thing that was on the cards for a very long time. But I think Station 11 is the best example I've seen of this in a long time. And I think this is a story that's really hard to do well because it often feels, especially now, after the fact, after coronavirus, will feel really bleak in a way that is almost impossible to sorry. It's almost impossible to contend with and like make your audience connect with your story. But it really helps that Mackenzie Davis and Tamesh Patel and Matilda Lauer were just like cooking like some of the best performances on TV.
But no, it's another one of those shows that I've really been meaning to check out. I think it's like, yeah, definitely you have to be like kind of accustomed to it and kind of just, it's especially because of like how rough of a time it was when it came out too.
Yeah, the first few episodes are obviously more rough than the rest of the show because they're about the first shows kick off with like the pandemic and like watching people die, and like there is this like PTSD moment for a lot of people there's going to be where you get scenes inside the hospital of like super crowded places and doctors without enough PPE to protect themselves and the doctors dying because they're catching the disease, all that stuff. And I get if you just like can't handle it. I have a couple friends who are just like, not for me. I'm gonna need to wait a few years. Absolutely fair. But if you can make it through the first few episodes, I think there's a real reward for you in the following episodes because it becomes, like I said, it's not bleak. This is not a bleak show. It's not a happy show by any stretch of the imagination. This is not Peacemaker. You're not gonna have a rip roaring fun time, but I think it has something really special going on. And yeah, I'm just really excited to see what this team has coming next. Mackenzie Davis is a person who I think is really underappreciated. Been in a lot of great stuff, including *Halt and Catch Fire*, which I think is one of the best TV shows of the last few years. So if you can, you should definitely check this out. Cory, what is your... Actually, skip your number two. We'll come to my number two, and that is... Who had on their bingo cards Che is an Apple shill this year? I really hate that they have all these good shows. It makes me really annoyed.
It's kind of funny though, because I'm actually the one who works for Apple.
Yeah, and has an iPhone.
That's true. On it while he records on his Mac.
And the Android boy on his PC is talking about how great the Apple production team has been. But you know what? It's unfucking deniable. I can't even lie. If Netflix decided to drop a bunch of good shows, I'll talk about them. They don't want to do that though for some reason. But the show is Severance, and I talked about last episode about what's the furthest place from here and why it connected with it so much is because of the uniqueness of it and like how there's sort of nothing like it. And I think almost no show embodies nothing like it quite like Severance, where it is a brilliant sci-fi concept for a television show. The premise, for those of you who don't know, is essentially it's like a near future world where a company has figured out a way to sever your memories so that when you're in a specific part of the office, basically, you don't remember anything. And when you leave it, you don't, like, you have two different versions of yourself. The one that lives in the office when you're there working and you remember everything that's going on there. And when you leave, you can't remember anything else. And there is just that simple concept leads to so much depth to these characters. Basically what you're doing is you're watching newborn people, like adults, these people who have no memories, no sense of self, and they are learning the world around them. And it is shot beautifully, acted beautifully. I think there is no season of television in 2023 that I am more excited for than the second season of Severance, because we end on such an insane cliffhanger that I don't really know where the show goes from here. That I think the next season has to become an entirely different piece of television, which I'm really excited for. But if you haven't already, I don't really know how much I can sell the show to you. It's so... It reminds me a lot of like a lot of people's experience with the first season of Westworld, where like the entire show is this like puzzle box that you're trying to penetrate. It just happens that when you got into the center of Westworld, it was lame, and it was like everyone's a robot.
Yeah,
and that sucks.
That's like it really does suck because they were very much you got to follow the maze, and we got to the center of the maze, and it's like
and it was bullshit.
This is bullshit. No wonder. Yeah, it's like and this got canceled. So guess what? Goodbye.
At the center of the maze in Severance is something really fascinating and a story about humanity that I think is in touch with a lot of interesting and new ideas. And I love, before we move on, I love the performances in this show, basically from top to bottom. I'm just going to shout out a few names for those of you who don't have Google at hand. But Adam Scott, Britt Lauer, Patricia Arquette, John Turturro, obviously, and Tremel Tillman. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention Zach Cherry, because I think he is, like, in a lot of ways, the key to the success of this first season, because he is the emotional turning point for the show. I'm sure, because of the popularity of the show, it got nominated for a ton of Emmys. I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir in a lot of cases, but if you haven't watched Severance yet, you absolutely need to. I think this is sort of like of the compared to my number one, which I would not recommend necessarily to everybody, even though I think it is maybe the greatest show of all time. I think this show has like sort of universal appeal. I don't know about a person who wouldn't love Severance. So.
Yeah, no, that's like my number one. Like, I got to start a new TV show, and I've just been kind of putting off that binge commitment. I know I'm just gonna kind of just blaze through.
I think for a lot of people, I imagine the hold off has been they don't have Apple Plus, but
yeah, no, that's also me as well. It's like I got to resubscribe and get all my Apple, like watch all these Apple Plus shows while. Yeah.
It's just next time you guys jump on Apple Plus to watch Ted Lasso, just also watch Severance. How about that?
That sounds good.
All right, Corey, your number one. This was my number 4.
Yes.
And I will say my basically 1 through 4. Or sorry, I should say my 2 through 4 is very, very closely clumped.
My 1 through 5 are all like just pretty much whatever mood I'm in. It's just when I put together my list this morning, this is just kind of how I felt. But my number 1 is the it's good. It's best Star Wars. And
it's the best Star Wars.
And it's Andor, another series that I'm like, I don't know why we're making this. And then Che's like, it's really fucking good, and I'm like, I'll get around to it. It's whatever.
Well, everybody settles down right now. Something's wrong.
Whatever it is, they're taking their time about it.
What's going on?
What are they saying? I think it's level 2.
All right.
I guess stay there now.
Can't be much longer.
You're right, you know.
I'm fine.
Level 2, far side.
Stagger. Something broken. What's he saying?
Level 2. He's coming this way around now.
What's he saying?
What was that?
What is that? It's nothing. Someone didn't load in. They are counting.
So they cut the power?
What do you think's happening?
It's 2. Something's wrong on 2. They're going too fast. I can't read it.
Everybody calm down!
Something's really wrong on 2.
You haven't got a clue what they are saying. Level 2, far side. Level 2. Are you all scrambled or something? It takes a week for one word to get all the way up here, and you're panicking about something that's happening on the other side of the building. How many hands does it take for one word to get through up here?
It's a long way, Kino, yes, but you've got to...
Stand in place, on program, feet down, face front, hands on heads. We will have immediate facility compliance or we will begin activating...
Oh, holy shit. Che, how dare you show this to me when the show's not even fucking over yet, you piece of shit.
I think this was actually a really great week-to-week experience, though, to be honest. For those of you who did watch week-to-week, I think there was like a ton of fun in that, too.
I think I caught up with 2 episodes to go, so I got to watch the last 2 episodes like when they were coming out, and I especially think that last episode was a really good watch by itself, because I wasn't like emotionally exhausted by a TV show yet. I really wasn't numb. I mean, that was the thing with Stranger Things, where I was just kind of a zombie, and that's more my fault than anything else towards the end of it. But I was like, I've watched so much television over the last 6 hours, my brain's broken. But with Andor, it's just like it was a really solid, like, I don't even want to say spy thriller, but it was like, I guess it was just like a general like thriller.
Well, it was
where
like
we had
four different TV shows, which was
Yeah.
also the brilliance of it. It had these four distinct acts that felt like different things, but also connected. I don't know.
And each act was really, really good too.
Yeah.
Like it's like they had like the first thing was like two phases of a heist. Then we got a prison break drama, and then it ends on this beginning of a rebellion. It's just so many parts of it that just work so well together.
Yeah. I mean, I as I've said time and time again, making good TV is both the easiest and the hardest thing in the world. It's very easy because all you need to do is get an incredible actor, an incredible director, an incredible showrunner. And it's very hard because there's like 10 of those in the world. But when you get Tony Gilroy to showrun your Star Wars television show, who also wrote Rogue One, and then you get Diego Luna, who is just fantastic, on top of the incredible supporting cast, including, I think, one of my favorite Stellan Skarsgård performances. He's just doing so much in like a very quiet role that I really, really connect with this guy so much. I was blown away by Andor. And like you said, we both came into this being like, who the fuck? I think we made a joke on record on this podcast being like, I don't understand why they're doing this. This show seems really stupid. As people who loved Rogue One too. Like Rogue One is my favorite Star Wars movie. And I was like, I don't really care about Cassian Andor. And you know what?
And I think
I was fucking wrong.
I think it was, I was like, we saw his character arc, and I think watching this TV show now is like, he doesn't really have a character arc in the movie, really, and that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
I think he's just like, he is this character, and seeing where he comes from in this TV show, I'm like, oh, I get why you made this show now. And I really like what they did with this show, and like, just each act was gonna be, Andy Serkis was fucking amazing, and like in the little that he was
I'm
in.
so, my one annoyance, like it's like I'm not talking about the quality of the show. I'm just annoyed we're not going to get more Andy Serkis
because that, and I do love that scene
so
though. Oh, it's like that. I don't want to ruin it if you haven't seen it yet. You really should go watch it though.
It makes me so sad. It was such a sad ending.
It's such a heartbreaking. There were so many heartbreaking moments of this, but it's like Rogue One did though. It made Star Wars feel like it's actually a war.
Yeah.
Instead of these mystical wizards who were just dickheads and just
that
making
was
out
the
with
thing
their
that stuck with me
sisters
the
and
most,
shit.
is like it was the first time ever in the history of Star Wars I realized the stakes. I was like, oh yeah, the Empire is like, I knew it in my head. I was like, the Empire is the stand-in for the Nazis, a million fascist regimes. They're truly evil. It was not until this show that I realized the extent to which like that's what Star Wars could be. That was the other thing that was frustrating about the show. Is like, why isn't Star Wars this? Why isn't Star Wars always this good? But
agreed.
What are you gonna do? I'm really excited for the second season. I'm really excited.
Me too. I can't wait. It's just
confused by the fact that people aren't watching the show. Very confused by it. I don't really.
I think it was just like I think it was just like poorly marketed, and I just like I think it's just also like we were saying that like we didn't know what this show was gonna be.
Yeah.
And I think this show will do well purely because of word of mouth, and I think that's kind of what people, even like Star Wars fans, just like I'll get around to it, but it's just like as soon as you fall into the first 3 episodes, it's like I gotta see how this fucking rides out.
Yeah.
All right, Che, what you got? Well,
All right.
Are we both on your number one now?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Anybody who's listened to this podcast before, or really like talked to me before, knows what my number one is. And it sort of had to be. I think I've said for the last 4 years now, really, or maybe 3 years, whatever the timeline is, that I think Mad Men is the best show of all time, but Atlanta has a chance to catch it if it can land this plane. I want to sit on it more. I want to sit on my feelings on the show for a little bit more, but I really think this is, season 3 and season 4, the two seasons of Atlanta that came out this year, I think are the best. So if that's the case, I think this might be the greatest television show of all time.
There's a movie theater 2 blocks away from here. The night Queen and Slim premiered, we were filled. Line out the door. Black people hopped up on nationalism, coming to support their own. 15 minutes later, we were empty. Not one person ate the blowfish. Not one. Just a bunch of Yelp reviews that all said the same thing. This serving poisoned fish.
Hey, listen, man.
Do you know the traditional way to make sushi is with your bare hands? And that sushi should be served at room temperature? Every Japanese sushi restaurant worth its soy sauce does it that way. And no one seems to notice. But if a brother from Alabama does it the same way, suddenly the fish is dirty.
Yeah, but y'all serving
You know, in Japan, there's a sushi restaurant that can't even take reservations from the general public because it is so acclaimed. You want to know where it is? It's on the Ginza line in a Tokyo subway station. I know because my master, Yuji Watanabe, studied there.
There's a real mastery of the art form. I don't know if any show capitalizes on the medium that is television in relation to like movies in particular. Like the difference between these two things better than Atlanta does, which is this episodic nature of the show and the way that Donald Glover manages to string through storylines and jokes and character arcs throughout the show from like season 1 through season 4. I have not gone back and watched season 4 yet. I just finished rewatching season 3, which I think is my favorite season of the show. I think season 3, the reparation season, is the best that the show has to offer. I just find everything that is happening in Atlanta to be, I mean, like high art in a way that is like I know that I get the take that like, is Atlanta for white people? I don't get it. I've heard the take, and I think that often happens with stuff that is really like great black art. You saw this with Moonlight too, where people were talking about like Moonlight's not for black people, that's for white people who want to like yeah. This is one of the best things that's ever come out from black culture, and it is one of the blackest things on TV. Well, the first season has fucking Migos in it. Rest in peace, Offset. But like, Jesus fucking, like, this is one of the blackest experiences you can have on TV, and that is codified in these last 2 seasons that have a real experience of blackness. And I love the last shot of this show. It's kept me thinking for like months now, or I guess a month. That last shot of Darius on the couch is like, I don't want to spoil if people haven't watched it. I think that last episode is fantastic, but you have that relation you have with him over the course of these last 2 seasons, and then culminating in that is such a beautiful end to a character that I think a lot of people really connected with in the show. I think probably, although Paperboy and Donald Glover are like the face of the show, I think the real through line in the pathos of the show is Darius. I think that's the beauty of that character.
I mean, yeah, no, I think in very, very quickly on with the show, he was the character that I'm like, oh, he's my favorite part about the show. And and he's just the recognition of Lakeith Stanfield, I'm sure through the writers, like the Glovers, and like working with him has just been a great journey. And I don't really think I have much more to add on how good I think Atlanta
we've talked about Atlanta ad nauseum, to be honest.
So, and I think what you said actually was the most eloquent way to put it. But definitely, as I said before, my 1 through 5 was just my feelings. I think I just woke up this morning just remembering Andor and how much I liked the way that solid season went. So
Andor is like a visceral experience in a way that Atlanta can't really offer you, and it like touches. This thing, all of my top 5s, like you said, are just a different sort of television experience. They touch different things in what I'm looking for, and like Severance really like tickles the part of my brain that's about like this mystery and exploration, like these ideas of like humanity that makes me think a lot more than maybe any other shows did. But the experience of watching Atlanta, especially as a black man who like really loves this art form in particular, it just feels like really special. I imagine this is the same experience that a lot of people have when they watch like Reservation Dogs, and they have this connection to it that is unparalleled in television. And you just don't get to see a lot of stuff like this. I'm obviously really sad the show is ending, but I think it sort of ended also in a perfect place. So it's hard for me to contend with those two ideas. That like, would I want a 5th season of this? Yes, part of me would, but also I trust Donald Glover, and the way the show ended, I believe that this was the best way to end the show. And
I think if anything, just like get something. Let's see what he wants to do next, and like let's see what like.
I'm super excited for Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I think that show's.
I keep forgetting that's a thing.
Fun.
Okay.
Oh, I can't wait. Before we end our conversation about Atlanta, do you have? I'm putting you on the spot. We didn't talk about this. Do you have a favorite episode of these seasons, from the 2 seasons from this year?
Oh shit, man! Don't do that to me.
Well, so
I guess maybe
I will say before I'll let you think about it for a bit. Unless maybe you don't have an answer. Like I said, I'm putting you on the spot.
I don't
My
think I'll
favorite
have-
is still the black and white, like the black and white kid episode.
I think I might be. It might be up there. I think also like Three Slaps is like
Three
such
Slaps,
a weird.
yeah. Oh my god.
It's such like I think I like Three Slaps because it's just such a weird episode of television that it was just like this is how you come back after a long break, and this is what you want to start with no explanation.
It's a bold move. No, you don't have any of your main characters until literally the last shot of the show. Nobody else that anybody would recognize in the first episode in 2 years. It takes fucking stones to do it, and they really pulled it off. I mean, again, I know I've been like fucking dick riding Apple and FX in my top 10. So be it.
Clearly,
they made the best TV of this year. It takes. I have to give FX kudos for like the amount of faith it took to give the reins over to somebody like Donald Glover, let him make this kind of show is a thing that I don't know if a lot of companies would have done.
No, I think you're right. I think you're right there for sure.
Yeah.
But,
I don't know.
no,
Anything else to say about Atlanta before we run over our top 10 and close out for the people?
No, not much else to say. I think it was a really great ride of a television show, and now I regret not putting it as my number one. Since it's over now.
I think Atlanta. I mean, I think Andor has a real case for being the best television show of last year. I'm
pretty sure I've ranked. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have ranked Atlanta at least somewhere.
Yeah.
In my number ones throughout the years that we've been doing this. But no, that's it. I have nothing else to say really for this year in review for television episode.
Great year of TV.
Great year of TV.
We will be back next episode to talk about movies, or we're already here and you can go check it out right now and listen to it. But let's run down our top 10s really quick. I'll go first. I'll start from 10. We've got number 10 is The Bear. Number 9, Reservation Dogs. 8, The Responder. 7, This Is Going to Hurt. 6, Slow Horses. 5, Rami. 4, Andor. 3, Station 11, and closing out with number 2, Severance, and number 1, Atlanta. Corey, what's your number 10 or your top 10?
My top 10 is number 10, Harley Quinn. Number 9, She-Hulk. Number 8, Tokyo Vice. Number 7, Miss Marvel. Number 6, Moon Knight. Number 5, Stranger Things. Number 4, Peacemaker. Number 3, House of Dragons. 2, Atlanta, and 1, Andor.
Yeah, I mean, once again,
I had a lot of fun this year. It was a really fun year of television.
We've given you guys a lot of stuff to read and watch in the new year. If you haven't already, please go check out our comic book episode that should be up. For sure, the audio is up. Hopefully, my computer cooperates and I can get the video for both of these up pretty soon.
I believe in it. It's gonna happen.
I don't know what's been going on, but either way, if it's not out already, you should see soon in your podcast feeds our best movies of the year to close out the list week and close out the year 2022. Anything else for the people, Corey?
Nothing else for me.
All right. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to share us. All that good stuff. Drop a review. I've been Che.
I've been Corey.
We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Sweet Christmas.